The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.
Welcome to the Tim Heale Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to have a chat with John. So, John, if you can tell me when and where you were born, and if you can describe to me what it was like where you grew up, the schools you went to, and the education that you received.
Well,
I was
born in 1964 in Fort Smith, Arkansas. So I'm a Southern boy by birth, but we moved to the Pacific Northwest to the state of Washington when I was 5. So I grew up here in this just a suburb of Seattle. It's probably 20 minutes of south of Seattle. I grew up with 3 brothers, my mom and dad, until I was age 12 when my dad left. I grew up in a pretty violent situation. He was a violent alcoholic. And so we moved around quite a bit from house to house. And so my schools were vast because I jumped from school to school to school. But I did settle down in high school and graduated from Lindbergh High School here in Renton. And then I spent probably 4 years just kind of wondering what I wanted to do. And then I finally decided to join the Marine Corps in 1987. And I went into the Marines, was stationed in San Diego.
Can I just take you back a little bit?
Yeah,
we've kind of raced ahead.
Okay.
we got way ahead of ourselves now.
Okay.
So when did you leave Arkansas?
When I was 5 years old. So I don't have much memory of down there in Arkansas. So, and because of the family that I grew up in, I don't have a lot of memory up until age 12. So there was a lot of traumatic abuse in my childhood. And so I don't recall a lot of my childhood up until age 12.
Well, we won't go into that then. But what we will look at is what was the neighborhood like you lived in?
Typical suburb of up here in Seattle. Just a rural area. I lived in a lot of apartments for a while, but we did live in some housing developments. I would describe it as just a typical neighborhood in this area. So,
So what was the first school that you can remember?
That would be my junior high. It was 7th, 8th grade students body. And so, first when we moved, when I was in 8th grade, I got in a lot of trouble at school, ended up having to repeat 8th grade. And then I got involved in athletics because the high school football coach said, "Hey, why don't you come out for the football team to kind of keep you out of trouble?" And so I started playing football. And then when I went to high school, I continued that and played football and track when I was in high school. So,
So what position did you play in football?
I was an offense and defensive lineman. So I was one of the bigger guys on my team in high school at that time. So,
did you play end at all? Defensive end?
Well, no, I was interior, defensive tackle and then offensive tackle. So,
all right. So right amongst it.
Yeah, I was one of the when I got into coaching later in my life, I call those guys the big uglies. So.
So I had a bit of fun there then. So,
and then I threw the shot and discus and track. So,
all right. So yeah. How did you do? I mean, you obviously went in for a few competitions.
Well, I finished my senior year. I finished 8th in the state in the discus, and I won our league championship in the shot put. So it wasn't too bad senior year. So
yeah. So how big was the school? I mean, was it one of these?
We had 400, almost 400 people in our graduating class. So it was a fairly big school. So
yeah,
and we will be celebrating our 40th graduation anniversary this year. So it's hard to believe it's been 40 years.
Wow. And you having a reunion or?
Yeah, we're having a reunion. I'm not sure exactly the details of that with those yet, but yeah, it'll be our 40th reunion this year.
So somebody will be organising it then.
Yeah.
So what did you do after you graduated high school?
Well, I didn't do a lot. I kind of hung out and, there was a lot of, because of my background and my growing up, I didn't really do much of anything but kind of in the drug scene and the party scene and stuff like that. And, just working odds and ends jobs until I decided to get out of that lifestyle and go into the Marines and do something with my life.
So joining the Marines then, I mean, over here, I mean, we have a policy of if you've been on drugs and everything to join the military, you have to be clean when you come in.
Yes.
Is that the same? So you had to go through something to get off of the drugs.
We had to sign a what they call a drug waiver, and then that way if something happened, if your UA was positive in boot camp, they wouldn't hold it against you because you admitted to it, and then you couldn't, obviously if you used again, you'd be dishonorably discharged. So
yeah, because so in the British military we have CDT, compulsory drug testing.
Yeah,
and we have a zero tolerance. If your sample comes back positive, that's it. You lose your pension, and that's it. You're out.
Yeah, that's the same. It's the same here. Same here, especially if you went in on a drug waiver. So
yeah, so got no excuse.
Yep.
So where did you do your boot camp?
It was San Diego, California. So I was 3 months there, and then I went to tech school in Aberdeen, Maryland. And then from there, I went to Okinawa, Japan for about 6 months, and then South Korea for 6 months, and then came back stateside to 29 Palms.
So what was your boot camp like? Was it all, is it a bit like, what's that film with Gunny, what's his name?
Yeah, boot camp was a little bit interesting, and I was older. So, once I figured out the mental game that they play at boot camp, and, you got to understand when you're going into boot camp, they're preparing you to go to war. And so, it's going to be a little tough, and it's going to be challenging physically and mentally. And so, there's days that, you were just like, why did I do this? And then there was days that you truly enjoyed it, and the days, that you're getting, what they called it, where they're busting you a little bit harder than others. Those were the tough days. So,
yeah. So I guess you did an awful lot of water sports with that then, sort of sitting in the sea with a big log doing the sit-ups and stuff. And
oh yeah, sit-ups, push-ups, burpees, everything. So, that was the tough part. So,
and did they have the bell, or is that just the SEALs?
That's just the SEALs. So,
all right.
And if we had the bell, there would have been a lot of my platoon that would have rang that thing.
So they keep the pressure up then.
Yeah. So, one of the days when we were in there, they woke us up at, I think it was around 4 a.m, and it was right near when the Beirut embassy got bombed. And they said that we were going over, and they had us pack our duffel bags, put us on a bus, drove us off base like we were headed to the airport, drove around for a little bit, came back to base, told us go unpack and go to breakfast. And so, it was just to kind of see who was ready to go to combat, and so it was an interesting start to the day. So
that old chestnut. Yeah. So. And it's when they take you off in the truck and drop you off and get you to walk to a certain spot, and then you see the truck, and just as you get in there, it drives off.
Right.
Yeah, we call that a Signa. The British military, that's a Signa. And there's two ways of dealing with that, and say, yeah, I knew that was coming. Just laugh it off. And just keep jogging on. Or you get all depressed and despondent. And that's the time that shows people's mettle, I guess.
Yep.
So so you went off then on to trade school. So what trade did you do in the Marines?
Well, I actually started off as
just a jarhead.
Well, no, every Marine's a rifleman, so we all get trained as that. But my specific job when I started was a howitzer mechanic. But then as I came back stateside after about 8 months at the service support attachment that I was, they transferred me into the armory, and so I was in charge of our unit's armory. And so that entailed, keep an eye on all the weapons, getting people ready for the rifle range, fixing them, the funnest part was test firing, because you get to fire everything that the Marine Corps had in the armory, from a 9mm to a 50 cal machine gun.
Well, let's just wind it back a little bit. So
Uh-huh.
you've gone through your trade training school, and your first
Mhm.
draft was Okinawa in Japan.
Yep.
Or was that the first time you left the States?
It was very, very interesting. And I had a blast over there. It was kind of neat seeing the different culture, and, and going into Korea as well. So
how long did you do in Okinawa?
I was there probably 8 months total. And we were in Korea for 3. So,
So what job were you doing in Korea? Were you up on the?
I was a howitzer mechanic. So I was with the howitzer division, and so we were with the South Koreans doing fire exercises. And so I was out in the field for 3 months. We lived in a tent city, kind of like I tell people it was like MASH. We were living in tents for 3 months. So,
Great fun.
Yeah.
So you did that. So what was the job at howitzer? So was it like the pack howitzer?
It was a 105 howitzer. It was a towed howitzer mobile unit, and it was basically, I was there in case something broke, like the hydraulic lines or whatever, and then I was there to fix it. I just sat back when they were firing. I just sat back and watched the show, so to speak. So it got to the point where I could put earplugs in and go to sleep while they were firing. So
you just get used to that sort of thing.
Yep, you just get used to it.
So when you came back over to stateside, then where did they post you back to?
I moved to 29 Palms, California, which is just about an hour east of Palm Desert, California. So it's in the middle of the Mojave Desert. It's where we'd send all our forces to do desert training. And I was there for 3.5 years until September 91 when I got out. And, like I said, I started as a mechanic there, but then I was transferred into the unit armory when I was promoted to E4. They needed someone to be in charge of the armory, and they moved me into that section. So
that must have been a lot of fun then.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, the desert grows on you when you first get there. You're like, oh no. But
I guess you coming from the northern end and used to cold and snow and everything.
You got to get used to summer times at 114 degrees. So
did you get the hang of it after a while? And did it affect you when you went back north?
No, it really didn't, because when I left there, I actually went to Ohio to go to college. And Ohio is very humid, and so but in the winter, the winters are brutal in Ohio. But yeah, it's I didn't really have too much tough time adjusting when I left. Now, the first summer I was there, it was a tough adjustment. So
yeah. So how are the winters then? Did you manage to get onto skis? Did you do any
No,
skiing?
I don't ski. I never skied because I was always afraid of somebody running into me, or because I was kind of a wild child, so I knew I'd be a daredevil on the ski slopes, and I didn't want to bust it. I didn't want to break a leg, or because I wanted to play football. This was when I was in high school. I wanted to play football, and so I didn't want to risk getting injured so I could play football. And so I stayed away from the ski slopes, and I've never touched a ski slope. And after living in Ohio for 6 years while I was in school, I do not like cold weather.
So what were you doing in school then? What did you learn? What was your?
I have a master's in physical
majoring?
I have a master's in physical education and athletic administration. So I went to school to become a football coach and a PE teacher, so I could do that. And so I had moved to Ohio because I'd met my wife at the time. She was in California, and we went back to Ohio because I knew my coaching career would, move us around the country. And so we went back to her hometown, and I went to Ohio University from 91 to 97 and got my master's. And I was able to, as I was working on my master's, I was able to work with the football program at the university as a graduate assistant. And so it was a great time, learned a lot of football. So,
yeah, because I guess going down at that, I guess it's almost professional, isn't it?
Yep.
college football. So they work on similar lines to like the NFL, where you dissect every single play from your
Yep.
opponents, and then you see where their all their potential faults are, where you can exploit stuff.
Yep. And you look at their do they have any tendencies in certain down and distance situation, formation situation? You got to break all that down. And that's the tedious part of the job. But it allows you to set up your game plan. So,
Yeah. And how did you do?
I was an offensive GA. The first year I worked there, I was working with the offensive linemen, and then the second year I worked with our fullbacks. And then I should back up. As I was working on my bachelor's degree, I was a defensive coordinator at the local high school. So I was coaching while I was doing my undergraduate too. So.
All right. So you got bags and bags of practice.
Yep.
Now, what happened when you graduated? Did you graduate with honors?
I graduated with honors, yes, for both my degrees. And then not bad for a kid who, barely graduated high school. So
what was your first job when you
I left
college?
Ohio University and I moved down to North Carolina. And I started as a defense coordinator and athletic director at a high school there in North Carolina. And then the second year I was there, I was promoted to the head football coach job. So I was the football coach and athletic director at the high school. And that was my first job after college.
That was a big jump.
Yep.
But I guess you got quite a lot of years of experience.
I coached for 17 years. So
yeah. So how many championship seasons did you get?
Well, we never really won a championship. Well, what I did is I turned some programs around. And what I mean that is this first school I went to hadn't had a winning season in 10 years. And, 3 years after we were there, we had a winning season and we were making the playoffs, but we didn't win our league championship. And then I was at that school till 2002 and I wanted a bigger challenge. My wife and I had split up and I wanted a bigger challenge. So I moved down to Georgia. Because Georgia is one of our better football states here in the United States for high school football, and took the defensive coordinator job down there, and I started coaching there. And like the previous school, they hadn't made the playoffs in a few years. And the first year we were there, we made the playoffs. Second year, we got into this third round of the playoffs. But then after that, I moved back home to Seattle because my mom was very ill, and I felt I needed to get back home to be near her, and I'm glad I made the move because she ended up passing a few years after I moved back to Seattle. So,
have you ever worked with an NFL team?
No, I never really wanted to work with an NFL team because I always felt that, when the players make more than the head coach is the one that's going to get fired before a player. So, and it's just, it's a total different level. And college was, I loved college football. High school football was a little different, because you got to deal with the parents a little bit more, but it was a fun experience, and, I wouldn't trade any of it. I had impact on a lot of kids' lives. So it was a fun time.
So moving on a little bit then.
Yep.
What was the most fun job you enjoyed?
Oh, I'd have to say it was down in Georgia because just the competitiveness of the football down there was it's like college football at the high school level. And if you weren't prepared, you were going to get your butts kicked. And it was just, the kids were focused, and it was a fun time, and I wish I wouldn't have had to leave, but I did have to leave.
So did you have any of your charges going to the NFL?
No, I did not have anybody go to the NFL. I had a few go to college, but none of them made it to the NFL. So, so I don't have that on my background. So that's not on my resume. But
so moving on then. So you moved back to be with your mum.
Yep.
And how did that pan out?
Well, I moved back and I started coaching up here for a couple of years, and then I got out of the coaching business. And like I said, I lost my mom. I moved back here in 05 and I lost my mom in 08. And the reason why I moved back is my dad had passed away in 03. And when I came home for Christmas in 05, I was like, or just before 05, I was like, I need to come back home because mom's not doing well. And I don't know how much longer she's going to be here. So I took a job up here, turned that program around. And then I was burned out and I said, I got to do something else. And I started doing personal training because I wanted to do something that was associated with the degree that I earned. And so I started doing personal training at a fitness club up here. And that was my next step after that. So,
mm-hmm. So how did you go? Did you go freelance or did you work for a gym?
I worked for a gym. I worked for Bally Total Fitness. And then in 2011, when they got bought out by another company, I didn't want to work for that company. So I started my own training studio. So I owned Summit Strength and Conditioning from 2012 till 20. Wait, let's see. Let me get the numbers right. So sorry. 2012 started that company and then ended up closing it here in 2020 due to COVID. So, but the transition was, when right before COVID hit, I was a member of a private golf club here in Washington, and they were building a fitness center. And so I talked to our general manager about running it and was able to go through the interview process and get the fitness director's job at the club I would belong to. And so I was now doing the fitness center at the club and my own business. And when COVID shut down my other business, I stayed at the golf club, and that's where I'm currently working at right now. Is I run their fitness center. It's a 5,000 square foot fitness center at a private golf club. So it's not a bad gig. So
do you get to go have the odd free round now and then? Take your bats out.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Spoil a good walk.
Yep. Yep. Or somebody said it's playing fetch with yourself, is what somebody said.
Yep. Yeah, I played a little bit of golf in my time.
Yeah. Well, it's a passion. I'm pretty competitive, so it's a competitive thing for me, and it's a nice time because it's and we have a beautiful course here. So
yeah. So what's your handicap?
My index is 5.9. So
what's that playing off?
It's it's average. Well, no, scratch is 0. So I'm about on the average. I'll shoot 5 or 6 above par on average.
Right. Yeah. So you're playing off a 6.
Yeah, not bad.
That's all right.
Not bad. Yeah.
So. I played off 6 once.
Yeah.
Long time ago. When I started playing golf, I was fairly young, and I had a right old mixed bag of rubbish. And it'd go around and sort of about 100, 110, 120 some days. And
right.
we got posted to Berlin, and I had the opportunity to go and buy a brand new set of ping golf clubs from the American PX, and I got them a really sort of discounted rate, and they were made to measure for me. And the first round I took them out, I went round in par.
Wow.
Shot myself. These things were awesome. And then I was playing sort of 3 or 4 times a week. We were playing in competitions sort of every other weekend in Berlin, and my handicap just came falling down. And I ended up, when I left Berlin, I was playing off 6 after 2 years. So it's fun when you're playing a lot.
Oh yeah. But it'll still humble you. Even as a 6, you'll go out there and have the worst day of your career. But you go right back out. So, and I was going to say, I never started playing until I went to Okinawa. I started late in life. And so that's where I picked up golf, because, Okinawa is 25 miles wide and 75 miles long. And so there's not a lot to do on that island except for golf, workout, scuba dive, and party. So
What was the worst job you had?
Worst job I've had. I would have to say it was when I was out of high school and I was working at a restaurant as a dishwasher. That was the worst job I had.
Somebody's got to do the dishes.
Yeah, I know somebody's got to do them, but it was just I wasn't cut out for that. So it was just it was too crazy, and I was just like, I can't do this. So
do you have any regrets leaving the Marines?
No, because I purposely went in just to go to school. And so when my time was done, I was ready to go. I had to do 4 extra months because the Desert Storm, when we liberated Kuwait, I was in during that time.
Yeah.
And the war, that conflict broke out in January. And my superior officer came to me and said that I can't go and I wouldn't be discharged. I was supposed to be out in February of that year. And he said I wouldn't be able to go home until everybody got back. So I had no idea how long that was going to be. And it ended up being September of that year is when I got discharged. Yeah. So, but no, it was the purpose of the Marine Corps was to go to school so I could coach and teach and stuff like that. So.
Gotcha. So I guess you have to do at least 4 years to be able to get that.
Yep.
So you did four years in a few months.
Yeah, I did 4 years, and then I had to do 4 years inactive reserve time, and so that's why when my discharge date came and went, they could keep me because I had 4 years of inactive time, and they could reactivate me. I had some of my friends, they went home in October, and they were back in their hometowns and working jobs, and when the conflict broke out, they got called back, and they were sent over to Iraq. Into Saudi Arabia. And so I was like, well, I guess my situation was better because I would have not liked being home and at work. And then all of a sudden, hey, you got to come back and go over to the desert,
go to war.
Yeah.
I missed Desert Storm. Where was I at the time? I think I was in Northern Ireland. So we were on a different post, right. So we didn't get to go.
Yeah.
But since then, I've been to Iraq, I've been to Afghanistan 3 times, I've been to the Balkans. Yeah, I've been around.
Yeah,
I've done a little bit.
Yeah. So I never saw any combat. So I was guess lucky or blessed. So
yeah. So combat can be a bit of a
yes.
They do know how to take some fun out of it.
Yeah.
But I did have a good time, I must admit. Everywhere I've been, because I've been a specialist, although I'm an infantry soldier, I was doing specialist work in psychological operations. So I was able to interact with the local people. Everything right. I did was directed at the local target audiences. So I did have some fun. So, John, what are your aspirations for the future? Where do you want to see yourself going?
Well, I love where I'm at in my career right now. So, I hope to stay here till I retire. I just turned 59, and so I'm going to I want to stay in this fitness director's job until I retire. I just recently authored a book. And so I'm doing book promotions, and, I'm in the process of working on book number 2. And so, in the future, it's probably going to just be, book number 3, maybe, and some speaking. And so that's what I want to see out of my future is that aspect of it. Cause, I think I was called to do that. And so I think that's where I'm headed down that path.
So what's your book about?
It's basically my life story and how I met Jesus Christ and how I gave up complete control and surrendered my life over to him and the walk that took place to get there and the messy side of the conversion. So the book is called Broken and Redeemed, Finding Freedom Through Complete Surrender. So, and it just hit the market, all the bookstores last August. So.
How's it doing?
Well, it's kind of, the literary industry is interesting because the reporting's 4 months behind. So I only have a report of up until the end of November. and I've sold 100 books in the bookstores, but I've personally sold in about 400 books myself. So,
So starting to get a
yep,
bit of traction.
It's started. So I got to get on the speaking tour. So
Do a bit of book signing and stuff.
yep.
So,
But that's my
was
future, I think, and it's because just the way the book took place. So
yeah. Well, I think that's been quite fascinating. So, coaching football most of your life then, and now personal training.
yep.
Do you look back on some of your recruit days in the Marines and give encouragement that way to your clients, or are you a little bit more gentle with it?
Well, I'm a little more gentle unless they want that. I got a couple clients that actually wanted some Marine Corps boot camp action. So they, and I told them they should be, be careful what they ask for. And, and they kind of agreed with me after the fact, but no, it's a different style of training, but it's fun, and it's rewarding to see the changes that you can make in people's lives. And that's what I think that's why I do what I do, is because I can help people change their lives and have better lifestyle fitness. So,
yeah, I guess it's what their ultimate goal is, what they're striving to do.
right.
Dictates the type of training that you do, that you prescribe, I guess.
Well, and see, I get a lot of my golfers wanting to, get, more mobility so they can play better golf, and it's that type of stuff. And, when you can help, somebody achieve that, then it's pretty rewarding. So,
yeah. So if you're doing a bit of sort of strength, upper body strength, core strength to get that better sort of mobility on a swing, to whack the ball a bit further.
everybody wants 10 yards more.
Absolutely.
Even if you're hitting it 300, they still want 10 yards more. I'll share this story. When I first got the fitness job, that we had I'll say Mr. Flynn was probably 91 at the time and still playing golf. And he was down on the range one day when I went down there, and he goes, "John, do you think you can help me get 10 more yards out of my drive?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's easy.
Here's a 90-year-old golfer wanting 10 more yards. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I can help you, Mr. Flynn, but we can try, so.
I could tell you I can help him.
Yep.
Go forward 10 yards to the ladies' tee.
Yep. So,
simple.
But yeah, it was a good story. So
yeah. That's what I would have done. Yeah, move forward 10 yards onto the ladies' tee. Tee off there. Get your extra 10 yards.
Yep.
Well, John, I've enjoyed this little chat.
I have too.
As one veteran to another veteran, thank you very much for your time.
And thank you for your time, and thank you for your service.
No problem at all. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You obviously had a goal for yours to get to college.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't have a goal for mine. I just went. I ended up only doing 44 years under the colours.
Yeah.
But I had a wonderful time. The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.